doesn't encourage the idea of evolution, or let me say, it's not driven by love. You can love as an evolutionist, because that, I think, it's important to know that you can love as an evolutionist. But I think the motivation to love sacrificially, even if it cost you your life, that motivation is very limited when you have an evolutionary mindset. You would rather the other person died and I survived, because it's all about survival. But when you believe in Christianity and life after death, then the highest good you can perform is to save someone else rather than yourself. That level of love, and it's not just an act, but to care about someone so much that you would lay down your life, and not necessarily to earn heaven, but to be at a point where you care about people that much that you would rather seek their good.
Yes,
would ultimately make for a better world.
That's one of the things that I think about in regards to things like evolution, is I want my ideology to be consistent with my actions, And if I believe in Scripture, if I believe that to treat others as they would want to be treated, but also, to the highest expression of love is to sacrifice your life for your brother, Greater love have no man than this, than to lay down his life for his friends, So that's sacrifice for someone else, And now, if I believe that in the survival of the fittest mentality, I believe that, and I decide to sacrifice my life for someone else, I mean, you might be committing an insanity there, Is that what you're saying?
So the hyena is about to take my food. And I'm the lion. I'm not going to say, oh, it's all right. You have it. I'll go find another one. No. I'm going to take it, even if you caught it. That's what we see, right, in nature. That's driven by survival of the fittest. And so, why would I steal from you? Why would I take your wife?
Here's the thing, if we were consistent with evolution for a moment, because people can believe in evolution, but we may not see it exercised in its consistency. Like if we're consistent with evolution now, you believe in survival of the fittest, you believe that some races are superior to others. Scrap the welfare system. If I'm stronger than you, why should the most strong provide for the weak who are just going to eat and consume while I'm working hard? Forget about the disabled, so on and so forth. Let the fittest survive. So if you're disabled or you're you're not part of the superior race, then why should I care for you? So scrap the welfare system. And that would mean things like eugenics. That would mean things like segregation. That would mean things like abortion. That would mean things like no welfare system. If you were to take it to its consistency, if it's survival of the fittest, then the fittest must survive. But we don't see the world operating like that. We did try that at one point, didn't we? With Nazism, And people find it abhorrent when they see evolution taken to its consistently applied. Where you have eugenics, superior races, segregation, conquest. Taking resources from those who are inferior and considered inferior. And so
that's
forth,
consistent. With
that's consistent.
Survival of the fittest. I colonized you. Tough luck.
Yeah. That is consistent with the survival of the fittest mentality of evolution. Now we find that so abhorrent, don't we? You colonized a country, and you just
raped and pillaged innocent people.
And took their land. Now, if you're consistent with evolution, you really believe evolution. Why are you saying that? It's survival of the fittest. But if you're Christian, now you have warrant to say that. Wait a second, there's something wrong with this, with this picture. It's not what Christ taught. It's not what Christianity is. But like I said, if you destroy that that foundation, Christian foundation, and you just replace it with evolution, then every single atrocity is merely the outworking of the survival of the fittest mentality.
Definitely.
And every war of conquest has its reasons. And
the quest for power.
genocide
Definitely.
and superiority, power structures, and all that. That's
It's my effort to survive. You can't condemn that as evil when I'm trying to survive.
You can't condemn that as evil if your mindset is one from a purely evolutionary perspective, where it's
Yes.
just where it's from monkeys to man, and it's one big game of survival all the way there.
A means to an end. Yeah.
You rape and pillage, and you try and become the superior, race and so forth. So yeah, the evolution may sound good, but if we were to apply it now to society, we would see that it's actually very repugnant, And then the only reason you can even call it repugnant is if you're looking at it from a totally different worldview,
That's right.
than the evolutionary perspective. You're now looking at it from, say, a Christian perspective, love your neighbor as yourself. Greater love have no man than this, than to lay down his life for his friends. Love God, love man. Turn the other cheek. And all these things are. Even Jesus Christ associates himself with the poor. He says, if there's a poor person, and you don't give him water to drink, and on Judgment Day it comes, it'll be like, Lord, what do you mean we didn't give you water? It's like, no, you didn't do to the least of these, you didn't do it to me. But if you've done to the least of these, you've done it to me. So automatically Christ is associating with the downtrodden of society, That's what Christianity
places value,
value.
On all humanity, irrespective of race.
The God of the universe associates with a beggar on the street who's not been given water, That's automatically saying, you have to care for the least of these people.
And it places responsibility on every human being to take care of other human beings. Whereas survival of the fittest, it's not my business. It's like, it's your problem. Your suffering is your problem. But in God's perspective, no, we're one family, and one man's suffering is my suffering. Their suffering is my suffering, and it's my responsibility, if I have the means to do something, to do so. And that way you can see that the troubles in the world, it becomes a shared human responsibility to work on overthrowing slavery, overthrowing racism, overthrowing prejudice.
All of that is consistent with the evolutionary perspective.
Definitely.
If you believe in evolution and you want to be a consistent evolutionist,
yes,
then you cannot say that one race seeking to outperform the other by surviving
and being dominant,
Definitely. And mating and raping, pillaging, and whatever.
Men dominating women is
it's how I extend my gene pool.
That's right. That's right.
So yeah, you have to have core moral values that are different from the ones being presented by evolution in order to have be consistent with a different outcome. So it all comes down to core values. Because obviously, at the end of the day, the Christian places value in the Word of God and what Jesus taught. Right, Jesus is the highest example, and all his teaching is valued. This is the way to live. And so you seek to implement that, and that's why something like slavery in America could be so repugnant. Slavery in the Roman Empire, it's like, Zeus is or Jupiter is the top god, and he has all the women, and if you're stronger, then you dominate. We're a warrior people. We live by the sword. We rape and pillage and crucify people. This is our values. And this is how we're going to live. And so slavery would not be as repugnant in Rome. This is the outworking of the conquest mentality. But you put it in a Christian nation now. It's like, wait a second, but isn't this inconsistent with your beliefs? Didn't Jesus Christ talk about there's neither Jew nor Gentile, slave nor free, male nor female?
That's right.
We're all one in Christ.
That's right.
So you see that there's an inconsistency with the belief and what is taking place.
Yes.
And so that means hypocrisy. But it's not hypocrisy if you believe in evolution to then propagate something like slavery. That's not hypocrisy. That's consistent with your worldview.
Yes, that's right.
But it is hypocrisy if you're a Christian and you and then you propagate something like slavery in the name of following Christ, you know. So,
And it means
Yeah,
that
yeah.
values,
and then of course Christians played a big part in trying to end slavery too. By the way, the Romans certainly didn't care.
no,
Neither did the Greeks, you know.
Yeah.
Neither did any other nation before that. You know, it's like slaves, so what? You know, every nation had slaves. Every people were slaves at one point or the other. You know, and so that's the norm. That's what it's been like. You know, and so the whites had slaves. But any attempt to break free from that is something good that we should you know, highlight. You know, because
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
The bad is not the exception. The good is the exception. You know, so yes, bad things have happened, but what good has emerged is also something you need to consider, and you need to hold on to, right?
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
yeah, because yeah. It's evolution and conquest are consistent with each other, you know.
yeah, yes,
And so, you can't. It's hypocrisy. It's pretty much hypocrisy to say I believe in the science and evolution and that,
yeah,
and in the survival of the fittest trajectory of human development, and then
Yeah.
to say, you know,
yeah, because then
we should care about the rights of the worker. I mean,
yeah,
that's, you know,
morality is not circumstantial, you know. Right is right, wrong is wrong, and it's not depending on the circumstance or at what stage of evolution you are, what is acceptable and not. You know, it is right because it's a moral absolute, and obviously the reference point is God, and it is wrong because it's wrong, and it's not dependent on, you know, what is popular in the culture, what is socially acceptable. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's like, and here's the point that we should reiterate. You know, because you're an atheist does not mean you will embark on the conquest mentality. You know, but what I'm saying is, it is by no means inconsistent for you to do that. You know, if you chose to. You know, if you believed in evolution. You know. It doesn't mean every evolutionist is suddenly going to go out there with a machine gun and rape 10 women and try and, you know. But what I'm saying is what it does mean is that is not inconsistent with your worldview.
that's been the dominant way of many cultures, actually.
Yeah.
This sort of which people call barbaric way of life. You know, there's a lot of child sacrifice and all sorts of things when you look at history. And the idea is that mankind left to that ideology would have remained that way. But you look through history that there was a new ideology that was inputted into societies at different stages that elevated them out of those things. You know, like there was cannibalism in New Zealand, you know, there was polygamy in different places, and if it wasn't for a new ideology, which in this case was Christianity, things wouldn't have changed. You see, things would have remained the same. And I think that's really the idea that all mankind, by default, has that carnal survival of the fittest mindset. You know, just like we're just another animal, and God has to remind us because we've lost it. Has to come in and say, actually, you're not. You guys were created to be a separate order. And whenever we receive that ideology, it changes the way we live. And then we say, oh, actually, we shouldn't be raping people. No, that's not okay. You know, we shouldn't be just destroying people for no reason, you know. And different morals came in that we acknowledged that, man, this is right. Not that, we developed the moral. No, it was brought in, and whichever culture receives it, they're like, whoa, this is so true. It was appealing because it was ennobling and it made life better. And without those, the reality is we'll just default back to survival of the fittest, you know, which means, you know, there is an ideology that is superior.
I like this. It's like there's at each point in history, there's an intervention of ideology that is seeking to elevate people out from the trajectory of human history, which is the Maya, which is the raping, the pillaging, the murdering. And it seems like every time these reformers, if you will, pop their head up, they're crucified by the rest of the people. You know, these people are crazy. What do you mean? Let's listen to him. I mean, you know.
Right. Jesus is one good example.
Jesus is is a very good example. He's bringing in this ideology to love one another, and the people are like
Elevate mankind.
to elevate mankind. But at the time, the people don't accept it. You know, it's like, no, this is what is this? You know, what is this new thing? You know?
The only way to get ahead in the Roman society is to, not turn the other cheek. Otherwise they'll take advantage of you. It's to, become wealthy. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere.
And every prophet had burden for their society. The society was mired in the vices that the Bible calls, all those vices, those carnal vices. Prostitution, rape, murder, pillaging, and then someone gets a glimpse of a better world from above.
That's right.
And they're shown a better way, and they're like, wow, Lord, how do we make this happen? And so, as the saying goes, a sane person in a mental asylum is the only person perceived as insane. So you have these people who receive this enlightenment, if you will, from God. This is a better world, and they see that the eyes are open to the horror of it all.
The suffering present with the existing ideology is evident. No one needs to question it. They know it.
Yeah. And so they come along and they say, "This is how let's try this. This is what I've seen. This is what I've received. This is what I've thought through." And the whole society swarms them and crucifies them.
Yeah.
But that's the sad tragedy of it. But when they listen, my God,
it transforms.
It's transformative, And so, yes, Christ was crucified. There was a lot of people who didn't listen, but man, it was transformative for the people who listened.
That's right.
And even for me personally.
And even when it's not embraced in its entirety, because people often are inconsistent in their expression of the higher ideal, because we've only gotten glimpses, say, of this heavenly revelation. So say you've got the gospel that Jesus revealed. Now, by default, not everyone is going to be at the most advanced stage of understanding, but even the minor expression of that revelation still does good for individuals as they can handle it.
Yeah. This is the true evolution of history right here.
That's right. That's really it.
It's a moral enlightenment step by step.
That's right.
Process by process.
That's right. And you can criticize every stage of history where the ideology was brought, because, every stage didn't necessarily manifest the full expression of the ideal they presented. It's like, man, they couldn't live up to it all, but they made a step forward. A step forward. We're no longer practicing cannibalism and child sacrifice, but we can't credit that to just human
it's like,
evolution. It was an intervention.
It definitely wasn't. It's like this, try to explain the color yellow to someone who is blind. It's just not going to happen. How do I explain yellow to you? It's like the sun. I've never seen the sun. It's like this yellow snake thing. It's like a creamy sort of. What is that? Well, we'll add to that not only being blind, but blind, deaf, and mute. That's humanity's predicament. Unless someone intervenes and by some miracle opens your eyes, you're never going to be able to understand what these colors
that's right.
are. And so
that's precisely what civilization really is.
Yeah.
And I don't mean civilization as in other people are uncivilized, but the concept of becoming more organized and living a different way, as opposed to the previous way you used to live. So say an individual civilization where, man, my life was chaotic. That was mine. My life was disorderly, chaotic. I was a drunkard, fornicator. I didn't have any order and structure in my life because I didn't know any better. And if I did know any better, I certainly had no power to live out the better that I knew. And so, then you receive this revelation, and, someone helps you to live that out, and then your life gets better,
Yeah. It's that intervention that takes place. God either sends a prophet or he sends himself, which is in the Christian,
And I think it's seldom just purely evolutionary. it's often a teacher or a
A
person.
lot of the time, it's revolutionary.
It's
not
revolutionary. It's not evolutionary. That's right. In fact, I think
So evolutionary that they have to crucify
that is
the.
precisely it. That it is revolutionary, not evolutionary. And if you look throughout, people like Martin Luther King or whichever different people came in, it was like a stark conflict, a direct
at the
clash.
time,
It wasn't like, we'll just take one. No, it was a direct clash of an alternative way of thinking.
Yeah, it was going into a totally different dispensation.
That's
at
right.
That point. Like, I mean,
That's right.
Egyptian slavery was not a gradual weaning off. It was
That's
like
right.
the nation of Egypt was overthrown.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
And God appeared, and new laws were set up
That's
to
right.
remind them of what
That's
it should
right.
be.
The
And a
American
new
Revolution.
system-
That's right.
And a new system was created.
That's
you know.
right. That's right.
And,
And that's not evolutionary.
No,
Certainly not.
I mean to go from
That
slavery, raping, pillaging, murdering, all of a sudden stop that. I mean,
Now you're a benevolent society. You're giving to the poor, the widows. It's like, whoa, hang on, what just happened?
I mean, you spent so much time in this adverse society, and now suddenly the light is switched on. You know,
That's right.
It is definitely revolutionary. These are revolutionary ideas. You know, it is progressive. There's progression in it, because people are able to implement and express more of what they know to be true at each given time.
That's
you know?
right.
But definitely the seed of it
Is
is
right.
revolutionary. The causation of it is a revolutionary act.
It's not the old system that's maturing.
No, it's a new
It's a
system.
different system
Yeah,
that
yeah,
comes
yeah.
in conflict, and this new system begins small and matures.
Yes, like a mustard seed. You know,
Yeah.
It's not an apple seed. Growing into an apple tree. It's a totally different tree. You know,
Yes.
being planted next
Yes.
to the old
Yes.
one. You know,
The bad tree is cut down and a
Yeah.
new tree is planted.
yeah.
That's right.
It's not the old tree coming
Yeah,
back to life. You know, so
Yes.
yeah, that's a remarkable thing right there.
That's right. That's right. And so therefore, people are born.
And there's a conflict too, by the way.
That's right.
There's a
So you're
war
born in
between
a
the two.
disadvantage. Maybe your family, you got drunkards and all of that, broken family, infidelity, all of that kind of mess that most of us have been brought up in. And the gospel is saying, the gospel of Christianity is saying, look, this new ideology is not tweaking your old one. This is something that is completely different, and it will begin small, but at its maturity will give you a life and experience that you've never before imagined, and that is much better than what you've had before.
The seed is revolutionary, takes time to grow.
That's right.
And it has all sorts of challenges to meet.
That's right. And it is different from the original.
Absolutely different. Yeah. Until it finally, breaks free and matures. And then
That's right. That's right.
And no doubt
right.
when people see it growing, they start thinking, wait a second,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
But that's the revolutionary
That's
thinking implanted,
That's right.
and in progression for it to grow.
That's right. That's why Jesus says, born not of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of the will of God. So it's a totally different source, where the ideology is. And like you said about the mustard seed, that once the new tree is planted, it does take time to mature. Like we see with Israel, now you're a free people, but now you need to nurture, water this new way of life and grow into thinking and living like a free individual, because you're not a slave anymore, so
Yes.
with that, I think that's pretty good. I think that's enough said. Enough said for what Christianity is attempting to do, because it certainly has come into conflict with different ideologies, different ways of life. That's not necessarily a bad thing that there's conflict.
Some
the
things
question
are
is,
worth fighting for.
that's right. The
Some
question
things
is,
are worth fighting for.
is it better? Is its goal to destroy or to build, to help, to nurture? The revolution is a positive one. It's a one of progress. And I mean, if you really take it for what it is, it's like this change will lead to eternal life, where there is no more pain, no more suffering. So it actually is coming into the present to minimize the amount of suffering that life naturally brings. It's saying that this way will minimize the amount of suffering in the world because of living like this. But ultimately, that's not the end, that it's going to ultimately totally eradicate suffering altogether. Not by human effort, but because there is an intervention of the divine. It's not just mankind progression. This is God offering an alternative.
Yeah, it's the invisible hand of providence
That's
guiding,
right.
nurturing his tree,
That's right.
pruning it,
That's
allowing
right.
it to grow,
That's right.
protecting it from the pests and so on and so
That's
forth,
right.
and allowing it to mature,
That's right.
so that people can finally
That's right.
see the contrast at the end.
So what if I feel like, but I like my old way of life? Then that's why it's whosoever believes, because it's really a choice that you just need to examine. Make a clear comparison of the two ways of life. Okay, you want to live as a cannibal, you want to live child sacrificing, polygamous, child slavery, violent, all of that, drunkard, sure, no problem. And if you're presented with man, here's an ideal where it's self-sacrificial, generous, benevolent, loving, kind, patient, faithful, good. And if you want to conclude that the other is better, not just for you, but for all humanity, fine, feel free to do that. For me, it's self-evident that, man, I don't have what this is offering, and I want that to be part of my experience, because it will make my life better.